Hi, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us. My name is Lindsay Hampson. Welcome, and thank you for spending some time with myself, with Mallory, and with Kevin. We're thrilled that you want to go live with us. We're live from 3 cities across North America. Um, and yes, this means that there may be dogs barking, somebody talking in the background, maybe kids fighting. You can always ask questions down in the chat, and we'll answer your questions. If we don't get to it during the next 40 minutes, we'll definitely get back to you afterward. And also because it's live, anything can happen. So we're excited to get started. So put your questions in the chat. And first of all, I'm going to introduce our guests. So my name is Lindsay Hampson. I'm the VP of Marketing at Ebridge Connections, and I'm sitting in an office, which is rarity these days. I'm just outside of Toronto, up in Ontario, Canada. Mallory, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Glad to have you with us today. I'm Mallory Fremgen, and I'm a product manager at Commerce Hub based out of Albany, New York.
Great. And Kevin, over to you.
Hey, everyone. I'm Kevin Klein. I'm the manager of solution providers at Station. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Ebridge, Lindsay, for having us. Mallory, great to have you on the call as well. Looking forward to a good conversation.
All right. We had a ton of registrants for this, so we're super excited. We know that we sort of hit the sweet spot with your interest out there, so definitely ask us questions, and we're excited to share with you. In November, Ebridge wrote a blog to remind merchants, suppliers, and brands to enjoy the craziness of the holidays, but also keep note of all the things that are brutal. And by brutal, I mean, what are the things that were preventing you from maybe growing or preventing you from sleeping? Maybe it's just getting orders out, getting customers to your store, working inventory, shipments, complying with retailers, all of those things that were loud and frustrating. Take note, because now as we reset in 2021, now's the time to make those changes that are really going to impact your growth this year. All right, let's move on. So section 1 of 2 sections is really just rehashing what I was just talking about in 2020. What were some of the things that happened during Black Friday and Cyber Monday that were notable? Definitely they took on a different flavor in 2020. A lot of things took on a different flavor in 2020. I think that for some reason the Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year came more fast and more furious than ever before. And I think that's because retail, as we know it, has changed. I don't need to tell you. Because stores closed, shoppers, even the ones that were hesitant, took out their credit card and magically typed it into a cart and checked out. Forbes suggests that e-commerce accelerated at a rate of 3 times. We already knew that people would go online and shop, but just this reality became a reality so much faster, years before we anticipated it would. So obviously brands and suppliers and merchants and businesses and entrepreneurs, they felt this and they tried it, and they probably had some trouble along the way. So the next part is just, let's talk about the things that were cumbersome. Number 1 would be around orders, and number 2 would be around shipping and fulfillment. A friend of mine, actually, she ships live products throughout the country, and she recently told me, never sell a physical product. And she's joking, but really, I think on the line you get it. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do. Getting it shipped, meeting customer expectations, avoiding those bad reviews, taking returns, all that stuff can be really complicated. Getting customers to your website is definitely a goal in itself, and that's all through marketing. Making sure you have the items on hand on your website, making sure inventory is correct when your customers want it, or potentially when a retailer wants to supply it. And then part 2 would just be fulfillment is slow. So customers don't they don't want to wait, basically. For example, I ordered some running shoes last week, and I was kind of upset when I didn't get my tracking number like the minute after. Our expectations are they're so different than they were 1 year ago today. So as merchants and suppliers, we worked out the issues in 2020 and we noted them. And the next part of this webinar is going to be all about just ways that we can solve these problems. Okay, let's get to it. This is the fun part. So Mallory, as we were preparing for this webinar, you said something interesting, so I threw it down. Now is the perfect time to figure out how we're going to grow and change this year. Us as technology partners, and also just the merchants and suppliers on the line too. January and February, the perfect time to figure out ways to improve. So we're going to hit on 2 items in this section. The first is, how are you going to scale your business? And the second is, how are you going to keep up? So I asked Kevin and Mallory to chat with me live on this sort of virtual stage because they're just plain knowledgeable and helpful. But it's important to also note that the 3 companies that we are each from, Ebridge, ShipStation, and Commerce Hub, we're actually at the very center of this weird thing that's happening, which is right at the very center of e-commerce and retail. And those truly are your options for expansion this year. And shopping has changed, it's true, but your customers are still very much out there. And they're expanding beyond that single store, potentially your brick and mortar now moving to online. And so you're going to be familiar with all these brands below. I wanted to explain that one way you can grow this year is by potentially adding an e-commerce store. So very quickly and easily, you could add a Shopify store or a Magento store, BigCommerce. You could throw up an Amazon store or sell on eBay. You could even expand your footprint or maybe upgrade your footprint to maybe go to Shopify Plus, for example. And then in retail, you could take on or try to make a relationship with one of the big box retailers. And Mallory's going to talk about that in a little while, so that they will sell your product. So that's definitely 2 major ways that you can sort of grow. All right, so now I'm going to flip it to Kevin. And Kevin, can you talk about just more on scaling for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me. I really like the comment about sort of ShipStation and Ebridge kind of being in the center of this monumental shift that's happening in retail right now. Commerce grew, to your point, exponentially in 2020, right? Obviously, there was reasons for that. But our opinion and the research we've done is we think that has opened up a lot of people to commerce, e-commerce. They've got a good experience, so their sort of first experience becomes their benchmark for how they experience commerce in general. So we think that commerce is just going to continue to grow. The 2020 just accelerated it. And the fact and the reality is commerce happens, especially e-commerce, happens in a lot of different places, right? 50% of e-commerce right now is on marketplaces. Right, there are multiple channels that people have to be aware of, and I think it's very relevant with Mallory and Commerce Hub because the brands, the logos that you put on that slide before this, are also interested in becoming part of that ecosystem. They're standing e-commerce sites to become market. Walmart Marketplace is a good example, but even some of those brands you saw, they recognize that their retail traffic is only a piece of their overall puzzle, and they understand that in order to be successful, they're going to need to adopt e-commerce and become dominant e-commerce sites over time, right? So everybody's got this concept that they want to go multi-channel, right? And they want to do these things. Oh, I want to go multi-channel. I want to have lots of channels, but the challenges behind that are monumental, and I think it's really important for anybody who decides that they want to go multi-channel. To really understand what you're getting into, right? In Mallory's world, in the retail space, especially if you're going to be doing dropship, there are some very specific service level agreements, SLAs, that go into doing business with major retailers. And that's true of any marketplace. Walmart Marketplace, for example, has very strict shipping requirements as a result of their competition with Amazon. So just understanding when you go multi-channel what you're getting into is kind of key, right? Don't just go and list all your products everywhere, because you're going to be in a world of trouble really fast, and then you potentially lose access to that channel if you don't perform, right? The other thing I see, especially in the multi-channel world, is just the importance of branding across these different channels. Does your brand resonate the same way on this marketplace or this e-commerce channel that it does on any others? And having some ways to manage that, and having a unified voice across the ecosystem. So if I look for your product on Amazon, for example, or I look at it on your own website, that user experience should be the same in a lot of ways, right? So that's one of the things we really teach about, like, being efficient in the way you present your brand. And as you might imagine, you're going to go out to all these different marketplaces, and if you have a great physical product, we at ShipStation deal with a lot of companies that have physical products. They have to ship it, right? That presents a myriad of challenges around not only shipping, but like Lindsay, you said it best. Where's my tracking number, right? Where do I want my communication? Not only in just email communication, but that could be any way that end user is comfortable with. Overselling and inventory, big issue, right? And especially like the last thing you ever want to have to do is cancel an order. You may not get that customer again, right? If you lost them, and it also really upsets those marketplaces and it counts against you. So it's really important to again understand those SLAs. Go multi-channel and you go out into multiple places, you're going to run into more customer support issues. It's just the nature of more business. So having a plan for that. As well as returns. The more you sell, unfortunately, the downside of that is you're going to get more returns. And so having an efficient way to manage that is really key. And I added this because I think it's super important. Understanding having reliable data analytics about where your products are selling, what marketplaces, how they're resonating, can really like gain efficiency. Well, maybe this product isn't really an Amazon product. Maybe this product doesn't resonate with the people who do business with one of these brands. Or maybe this product is great for dropship because Home Depot or whoever can't stock it in the retail stores because it is a lot plant or something like that. So my point on this slide and then adopting technology, I think just there are ways to account for these problems, right? And I think one of those is automation to reduce error. There are lots of applications that can help you there. Maintaining that brand consistency, like I was talking about, even like aggregating your orders and like understanding where your hotspots are, where you're shipping things. We use that a lot at ShipStation, so you can set up fulfillment centers. You can meet those 2-day, or now Amazon's saying 1 day now. If you're going to do Seller Fulfill Prime, so you got to be aware of that and have that functionality, and then just find tools that make returns and customer support engagements really, really easy. I think all of this is sort of key if you're really going to scale in a multi-channel environment.
Cool. Very cool. By the way, the end of the story is I got my running shoes and I never got a tracking number. It was magical. Thanks, Kevin.
Happens unfortunately more than you think.
It does. Mallory, thanks, Kevin. That's great. Mallory, you want to jump in here?
Sure. So one technology that you might adopt along your journey is Commerce Hub. So we're experts in the dropship space, but we do also support several marketplace channels. If you're not familiar with dropship, really what the model is a customer will purchase a product on the retailer's website, and that order will go directly to you as the supplier to fulfill and ship on behalf of that retailer. So it's a great way to grow. Large retailers will come to Commerce Hub to help them scale quickly and rapidly, expanding their assortment and having that distributed inventory. And as part of that, they'll bring suppliers like you onto the network. So when you're joining Commerce Hub as a supplier, Commerce Hub will help you in understanding all the various business rules and the validations that are needed to be compliant with the retailer standards for customer experience. So this might include branded packing slips, required message transactions, or meeting those SLAs that Kevin's been mentioning in terms of those shipping windows or even valid tracking information.
Good.
So many businesses need to scale quickly in the dropship model, and we're making thousands of retailer-supplier connections each month. In order for businesses to keep up with the orders that are being processed, they often need to integrate their back office systems. So where there's a lot of manual data entry that can be avoided, and you can automate parts of the process so that you can keep on top of selling. And there's many different systems that companies will leverage, like QuickBooks or Shopify, and of course ShipStation. So we had launched our partnership with Ebridge Connections in early 2019 to help with just that. Our partnership's all about quality, speed, and scale, and we aim to integrate systems together to reduce those manual efforts across a range of different systems and ERPs. And I'll let Lindsay talk a little bit more about those ERPs.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, so let's talk about your back office. So it may not be you actually that knows the software in the back office, but somebody maybe at your business does. At the very start of 2021, this might be a topic around the virtual water cooler, is getting a better accounting system or upgrading your ERP. Just for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, an ERP is a really fancy term for a robust back office system that helps you count your money. It also tracks your orders, and it often acts as the de facto spot for product data and inventory levels. Businesses at times will start with something really lightweight, like I think it's Danny DeVito is the spokesperson for QuickBooks, or Sage 50 is another small package for a small business. And then as their business grows and expands, potentially they take on a bigger ERP, like a NetSuite or an SAP Business One or a Sage 100, for example. And then Microsoft Dynamics is another very popular ERP. Epicor, there's a big long list, and I won't name all of them. But what we see in the January, February timeframe is people reassessing that system. So maybe they're switching from one logo to another, or maybe they're simply just upgrading. For example, SAP Business One moves from, I think it's version 9.3 to 9.4. And so making those small adjustments can actually have an impact on the process of your business. So you want to do that stuff kind of early in the year and make sure you work out all the kinks. I'm going to get into how automation works fully in a few minutes, but I just wanted to sort of introduce that concept of the back office system. And I'm sure some of you might be using Excel spreadsheets, or maybe QuickBooks, or maybe any of the other logos I mentioned, but that's super important to keeping your data straight as you start to grow and scale. Okay. So let's talk about more on keeping up. And Kevin, you're going to hit on carrier relationships.
Yeah. No, I think your point about the ERP system is really great. And we work pretty closely with Ebridge at ShipStation because we often encounter folks who are sort of tackle this tech stack station around, okay, I've got multi-channel and I've also got, my ERP and I've got data, right? I've got data and I'm worried. I'm trying to understand together. And we work closely with Ebridge to sort of solve those problems as they come up in our conversations. But that's kind of only one piece of the puzzle, right? Is like this concept of I've got order data, I've got inventory. The other piece of it is, well, I've got to ship all those products out I sold, right? I got these orders, I've got these things, I've got to deduct inventory, and that can be a real challenge for folks because they often really start to notice that number as they ship more is really sort of like, especially if they're offering like free shipping or they're doing, they're trying to meet expectations. Boy, does that cut into margins. And so, we really have tried to educate our users and certainly the mutual customers we have with Ebridge and Commerce Hub to understand, like, it's important to look at those carrier relationships. Not just using one carrier relationship. Establish lots of them. There's no downside to it, right? You can check out different relationships, see which ones, and understand the strengths and weaknesses of all of them. Certainly in the U.S. In North American market, some of carriers are really good in certain weight classes, for example. So it's very important to understand like where they're strong, where they're not so strong, right? And also just rate shopping, right? Finding tools that allow you to, in real time, rate shop before you're sending an order. Certainly using negotiated rates. There are tools out there that negotiate rates for you, like ShipStation, but we often encounter a lot of merchants who are negotiating rates with carriers based on the volume that they have. Certainly live rates at checkout. This is really becoming kind of key now. If someone wants to upgrade their shipping, how much is it going to cost? If I don't qualify for free shipping, what's it going to cost? That is the number one thing that people talk about, and the number one reason they don't convert is if someone's charging shipping or shipping's not clear. So very, very important there. And then understanding, like going international, understanding which carriers are strong there, what are the requirements, do you have the tools to do it? And so I think in terms of scaling, so once you've done those things and you've kind of got those pieces in place, you can really start to get more efficient in the processes and automate some of that, so you don't have to think about it, right? Once you've got those things sort of put in place, and that's really comes down to optimizing which carrier you're going to use for which order, right? And a lot of that is dependent upon a couple of things: weight, insurance, and certainly international. So using tools that allow you to optimize that, and then I like to call it just set it and forget it, so that you don't have to rely on someone in the warehouse making a decision. You can set it up. You're getting the best rate. You're going to use this weight class to really avoid those unnecessary charges. And I think Mallory and I were talking about this when we were kind of discussing all this. Those SLAs are important to understand because you want to put guardrails around your business so that they don't happen to you, right? You don't make mistakes, so you don't get chargebacks, which is a big deal certainly in not only in carrier world. If you make a mistake, carriers charge you for those mistakes, but retailers do as well, giving you tools to give you real-time quotes. And then automating like notifications. So Lindsay, your example of not getting your tracking number, what a frustration. Automating notifications, not only to like the end user, right? When they get something ordered, it's instant gratification, right? It's shipped, it's been delivered, here's where it is, making that experience positive, but also communication back to your trading partner, because those trading partners have very specific rules as well. You have to tell them when product ships, you have to tell them when an order's been received. I'm sure people on this call probably are familiar with the acronym ASN, or Advanced Ship Notification, which is really kind of key in the dropship world. And then certainly branding that whole experience, right? Making when anybody who touches your company has a really positive experience with your brand. They know. So like if you had gotten that email, Lindsay, and it had a great logo on it, and you clicked the tracking, you knew exactly where it was, and every time you went back to see where it was, which I'm the worst offender of this, I want to know where my stuff is. I'm going to go to the email 10 times. You have a positive exception with that brand, so you trust it. And certainly if you're doing anything in a blind way, blind dropship way via the likes of Commerce Hub, you're meeting that company's brand's requirements because they understand it too, right? Like Target or Home Depot or whoever, right? They're going to know that if someone clicks on there, they're not blaming the dropshipper, they're blaming the retailer, right? The brand. So it's really important to have that sort of front and center and build that trust.
That's true. And that point is actually, it's funny. I don't know in your personal lives if you tell people what you do for a living, but my dad ordered 2 things from one of these big box retailers. He ordered from their .com, and one arrived very quickly and one arrived in 2 weeks. And I had to explain to him drop shipping. He didn't understand it. Well, guess what? I know it's coming from, Home Depot, for example, but it's drop ship. It's funny. Nature
to us, but a lot of people don't even know that there's third-party marketplace sellers on Amazon.
It is funny.
They just think it's Amazon, right? They just think it's Home Depot, and I think the marketplaces and the brands are really aware of that, which is why they put these rules in place that you have to follow, because they understand that it directly impacts the consumer's perception of their brand.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Reputation is key, and they're really trying to make sure that end customer experience is as best as it can be. It's definitely a very competitive space, so the more they can uphold those requirements and be consistent, the better it is across the board.
Well, this is a good segue to compliance. So we're going to talk about shipping and branding compliance.
Yeah. So this is the second time, and you can tell the theme of my presentation because I talk with dropshippers all the time. Understanding the SLA per retailer, per marketplace, being really hyper aware of all the rules, and then creating automation with the tools that you have to be able to put those guardrails up. That's the best way to think about it. But it's not just that. So it's not. When you're considering the tools you're using to account for drop shipping and you go multi-channel, you want to also be aware that those rules are going to change, right? Having tools that are agile enough to sort of keep up with those changes, I think, is also really key. Certainly having partners like Ebridge, like Commerce Hub, and us, of course, ShipStation, who are aware of those rules and can help sort of guide you through the process. I think that's one of the things that, like, for example, Commerce Hub does really well is they have these relationships with these retailers because they're their customers, and they know the rules, they touch with them, and they know when stuff is going to change or when SLAs change. It's the same for us with marketplaces and e-commerce channels. Yeah. If something changes rapidly, we're hyper aware of that. We're hypersensitive to that. We have a relationship with that marketplace, and we alert our customers as quickly as possible and then show them how to change their automation or protect their margin, which is kind of key, right?
Yeah.
And then on the branding piece, Mallory, do you want to speak to that one?
Sure. So, as you mentioned from the dropship perspective, there's a lot of different requirements where you're trying to uphold the reputation of that brand. So if you're ordering something from Home Depot or Macy's, you want that pack slip to have the right logo and the right format and the right set of data when it's getting to that end customer. So we really want to make sure that those requirements are easy to understand, that you know where to get those branded packing slips, or if you need to customize things within your own internal systems to support that, how to do that. And that also extends to different shipping labels, which we partner with Ebridge and ShipStation to make sure that those pieces are in place. They might be different requirements for how return labels are on there or how certain things need to be formatted. And then end user communication is really key. So going back to Lindsay's tracking number example, you need to make sure that the communication is timely into your trading partner as well as that end customer. So making sure that once you're able to ship that order, that ship confirmation notice gets to the place that it needs to be with the information, including the valid tracking number and updated information, so that way all those expectations are consistent throughout.
Great.
Yeah, and I would say just one point on the shipping labels is that having some tools, especially if the retailer, and this is really common in drop shipping, they require that you bill on their third-party account. Having some tools like a ShipStation or something that can account for that, because you're going to have a lot of different account numbers and a lot of different retailers. And if they don't require it, having something to help, that you print your own shipping labels and you do it efficiently.
That's a good point, actually. That's a really good point. It can get complicated very fast.
Complexity.
But it's worth it.
Oh, totally.
Okay. All right. I get to share the rest of this graphic. So this is my world, and so I'm not trying to do a marketing pitch to you all, but I just want to show you all the different moving parts when you talk about orders or shipments. So this right here is Ebridge, and we have a few different ecosystems of technologies, let's say, that we help integrate. And so over in the top left is ERPs, which I already talked about. So that's the back office stuff. And then we can talk also about e-commerce. We can talk about EDI, so that's retailers, and then other things as well, like ShipStation, for example. And so these are all different systems that your business may be using, and different people at your company are saying yes, they're signing up for these programs or these software solutions. Somehow you have to get the data, though, between all of that together. And so that's where we come in. So Ebridge we sit in the center, we're kind of like a sphere, and we pull and push data from these disparate systems. And so what are we pulling? We can pull 6, for example, different workflows, and that's the stuff in yellow. The orders is a good example. So let's say somebody ordered, I don't know, let's go with running shoes, a pair of running shoes from a Shopify web store, let's say. So we can instantly pull that order from Shopify with all the details of that order. It goes through the Ebridge platform, and then we can push it to any of the ERPs listed. So let's say your back office has Sage 100. So within a few minutes, we can have that information into your back office. And then you can immediately update inventory as well. So minus 1 pair of black running shoes will then be reflected on your web store, for example. And so that's the same with all the other, so returns, adding a new customer, let's say, to your back office system, shipments, which we definitely do between ShipStation and Commerce Hub. And then we can get into EDI documents too, and we can talk about orders, ASNs you guys already talked about. So there's lots of workflows that we can help automate. And so customers come onto Ebridge and potentially just automate, let's say, 3 to begin with. And then as they get onboarded and realize the time saving, then you can add more. So that's just a snapshot of what we do and how automation can help you without being, sorry, too much of a marketing pitch, but I just wanted to give you the full picture. All right, let's talk about saving money, but saving money on shipping. Kevin, do you want to take this?
Yeah, well, this is definitely a topic that that I think is constantly coming up, and I think we've sort of alluded to it all this whole time, is that like expectations are sky high, right? There's a trust element in fulfillment that has happened, especially with the rise of Amazon. Customers are now expecting their orders to be at their door almost the next day, in a couple of days. And if they're not going to be there in a couple of days, they expect consistent communication and untimely updates on when that order is going to be there, so they can plan accordingly, right? So with merchants under all that, so with expectations sky high, merchants are constantly trying to figure out, okay, I have to meet these new expectations, but if I have to pay 2 day or 1 day for every order I ship out, I'm going to go out of business, right? I mean, it's kind of like, it's almost not feasible, right? So what we've tried to do at ShipStation is not only come up with some like cool tools, which I think you'll flash here in a minute, the ShipStation calculator to give you kind of an approximation on what you would save if you were to work with us, but also just building out some efficiency so you don't get chargebacks and build out branding compliance, but also automation around on where packages go and when. I'll give you an example. If, for example, you let's say I was in Austin and I was trying to fulfill an item to someone locally, right? I got an Austin zip code. I don't have to spend a 2-day package or 2-day service with a carrier to get it there in 2 days. In fact, I could probably like the lowest class service and do that and get it there within a day, right? The customer's happy, and I spent, a lot less than I would have had I spent the 2-day or just went through. So it sounds easy in the abstract, but when you get thousands and thousands of orders, if you don't have some sort of automation engine that allows you to account for those nuances in the fulfillment process, you're not as efficient as you could be, and you could be losing a lot of money. And I think that's really sort of the key, is finding tools like a ShipStation or others that really help you understand where your orders are going and make that process as efficiently.
Yeah, good. And then we've talked about this a few times, but it's there's obviously pressures from the e-com behemoths to get things out fast, make your customers happy, and so I think all that pressure equals automagic technology that people are adopting. So that's a great word, by the way, automagic.
Great word.
It is a great word. So somehow you got to get faster and better in 2020 to keep your customers happy and keep them coming back. And also saving money is key. Saving them money and you money.
Absolutely.
Let's dive in. I know you just talked about it, but your ROI calculator on the ShipStation website, it's actually really interesting. I got sent it a few weeks ago, and it's really great. So I'll share it with all the attendees afterward. But this isn't live; it's just a screenshot. But if you grab this little ball here and you drag it to the number of packages you ship per month, it will show you just the time savings, like how much time would you be spending, and then how much money could you be saving. So it's not a gimmick; it's actually really useful, and I'll send you guys a link to it. Anything else, Kevin? I just talked about your thing.
No, it's cool. So we actually put some science to this. This isn't just a marketing gimmick, right? This is like on average what our customers save when they come to us. And it comes twofold, right? It's not only the fact that you can use negotiated rates, or in some cases the rates that we provide, given the relationships we have with carriers, but also just the efficiency that you gain in your warehouse or your operations, where you can like repurpose someone who may have just been like taping labels to boxes or doing things in a manual way. So all of that is into account, and that's why we really strive to like show people in a visual way. Hey, there are ways to combat this new expectation game that we're all in, that's being set by some of these larger marketplaces. Even if you're a smaller merchant, and there are tools out there like ShipStation that can really help you with that.
Cool. Okay, and this next thing that you can do, we wanted to give you 3 things you can take away at the end of this, is from Commerce Hub. Mallory, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Of course. So one of the things that we see all the time once suppliers join the Commerce Hub network is they're looking for more. So more retailer relationships, trying to figure out more ways that they can grow and more places to sell their product. So we recently launched a new program called Commerce Hub Connect, which is aimed at introducing you to buyers at large retailers that you're not already working with. So it's just a couple quick steps so we can get some additional information about your company and what you sell so that we can curate those matches and introduce you to large retailers. And we'll send out a link to where you can sign up.
That's great. I'm sure that's a very common question. How do I sell at XYZ? That's helpful.
Exactly.
Okay, and then from the Ebridge standpoint, we on our website under a button called Start Planning, you can go and actually see all of the integrations we've ever done before. It's we call it the blueprint. You can hop in and you can go to, let's say, Home Depot, Commerce Hub, and then go and pick your ERP, or you can pick ShipStation and see all of the workflows, those sort of yellow boxes I showed on a few slides ago, and see what we've done before. So when you come and ask us for help, we can show you what we've already done before and get you going fast. So take a peek at that. And that is the end. We're in the fun part, the Q&A part. So we have about 5 minutes for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my slide here. Give me a second. And okay, I'm not sharing anymore. That's good. See you guys now. Okay, let's get to some questions. So I'm just hopping into the chat here.
Looks like we've got one for Kevin.
Nice.
Can ShipStation grab Amazon FBM shipping labels?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. So just so everybody knows, FBM is what is known as fulfillment by merchant. It's Amazon's Prime program where you can get the Prime check, but you don't have to send it up to Amazon's physical distribution centers. And the answer is yes. So ShipStation does support billed by merchant. We do import those orders, and they're actually tagged within the dashboard so you can see them as fulfilled by merchant. We do that for a couple of reasons. One, because those are usually on the clock, right? Amazon's looking at you to make sure you fulfill within that. And I'm happy to go into more detail, but short answer, yes. You can print fulfilled by merchant labels within ShipStation.
Great, thanks. Okay, I've got another question here. Here we go. Mallory, I think this one's for you. So how long does it take to get set up with a new retailer on Commerce Hub?
Oh, that's a good question. So it really depends on exactly how you choose to connect. So in terms of what different back office systems you plan on integrating with, and also just your overall readiness in terms of being able to meet those technical requirements and do any different types of mapping. So we have seen new relationships go live from a web portal standpoint in under an hour. So it can happen very quickly if you're looking for a lightweight portal solution. When you start to get into some of the more complex integration workflows and add additional back office systems, that can take up to 2 to 3 weeks as you kind of look at what those integrations and mapping requirements are.
Great, that's helpful. That's helpful. Okay, let me see. The most common workflows for integration is the next one. So I'll start there. I would say definitely orders. I mean, orders got to be that's the big pile that's sitting in front of you mentally and physically. So definitely automating orders. I would say the next one would be around shipments, just because of the quick turnaround that's required. And then I would say the third most common workflow has to be about inventory, because nothing happens without product, right? So those are the top 3. There's plenty more that we've done before, but if you're going to start somewhere, I'd say start there.
Yeah, we definitely see a lot of invoices as well. So especially when looking to hook into those accounting systems, so making sure that you can reconcile the books is another big one that we see.
That's a good idea. You have to get paid. Hey, Dennis.
Hi, hey, how are you? So I also want to say inventory really is the key. When you're trying to go
Yeah.
to all these different places, you got marketplaces, you got the big box retailers. There's one thing that's worse than getting your package without a tracking number, and that's to order something and 2 to 3 days later it's canceled, right? Because you had options and you should have, I wouldn't have went with this one if I knew. So inventory is key.
That is so true. And also, Dennis, you hopped in. I'm excited. See, you're like a special guest that showed up. Thank you. And Dennis is on the
You're
Commerce
welcome.
Hub team. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm Dennis Wade. I'm the onboarding manager. And what I also add, we talk about a lot of different things. We talk about drop ship with a retailer, and we talk about marketplaces.
Yes.
When you're doing drop ship with retailers, they're going to do a lot for you. They're going to set the shipping rates, as Kevin said. They're going to work with the pricing. So they'll do a lot for you. When you get to the marketplace, and you probably do a little bit more with Ebridge and ShipStation, it's kind of, I always say, Mallory will tell you, it's the wild, wild west. You can change your pricing. You could change your shipping. You could do a lot more. So I think what I would like people to take from this is dropship is more control. The retailer does a lot for you. In marketplace, you have a little bit more room to maneuver and change prices at the last minute.
Yes. That's a good point. Very good point.
We've got a couple more in the chat. So in addition to integrating with Commerce Hub, can Ebridge also connect to SPS Commerce? I think we have seen that before. We've also had scenarios where some folks have decided to replace their SPS Commerce Hub or Commerce relationship directly with Ebridge. I don't know, Lindsay, if you have any more to add on that.
Yeah, that happens too. Where I mean, we're kind of competitors and kind of friends too. There's a big pie out there, right, for everyone. And then oftentimes we'll have customers that use SPS for some things and use Ebridge for other things. So as long as your integration's working, we're happy.
Yep.
I'd also add there too is to save money. If SPS is not always like Commerce Hub where they're connected to the retailer. So in a lot of cases, you want to probably side towards Ebridge and use them for the connection instead of paying both parties. Unless again, with Commerce Hub and one of our big retailers, Home Depot, you have to start with Commerce Hub. If that's not the case with SPS, I would suggest you just go with one instead of paying both third parties to do the job.
Yep, great call out because it kind of goes back to that theme around cost savings and some things to think about as you're looking for what technologies to integrate.
Yes.
What else we got, Lindsay?
I think let's do one more question here, and then I know this will be your break before your next meeting. So here's the last question here, and Kevin, I think this one's going to be for you. So how does ShipStation help maintain branded requirements for different retailers? That's got to be difficult.
Yeah, and actually that's a great question. So I think this is where ShipStation really shines in the world of drop shipping. So ShipStation has a concept of stores within the application. And someone might have multiple brands. They might be running on a marketplace. They might be running multiple brands on their website. And so the same principle can apply to drop shipping. You can literally set up a store for each one of your retailers within ShipStation. And you can set up automation rules that build to their third party. So when they give you their requirements, you can go into that store and, again, to my point, set it and forget it, right? Set up all the rules that they've laid out for you. Dennis's point, they control a lot. So, but they have expectations that you meet those control parameters. And then the same thing is true with packing slips. So you can set up different packing slips to meet those requirements within ShipStation. And manage those brands separately. So you can almost see them as like a completely separate store. Heck, you could put those brands in different parts of the warehouses if you wanted to. This side of the warehouse is where those branded products live and vice versa. So there's a lot of flexibility in managing multiple brands because on average, people connect a lot of different selling channels within ShipStation. It's a multi-channel tool, so it accounts for all of that.
Great. Thank you. There's a few other questions, but I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. So what we can do is we'll follow up directly with you. Thank you so much. I know what it takes to book a meeting in your calendar and actually come. So we all appreciate you joining, and I hope you got some value out of it. And we're all here. We're real people. So if you have questions for us independently, then we'll definitely get in touch. Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Great job, Lindsay. Have a great day.
Thank you, special guest Dennis.
Yep. Bye now.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, everyone.